Okay, Plato's Cave. That's our survivor game today. I chose it, I elevated it, I am honoring it with my attention for a couple reasons. And I want to elevate it into your attention for a couple reasons. And first of all, among these, what did I think this morning? Is, as I said, of all the four texts, it looks difficult. And usually, when I look at difficult things, the action of looking at difficult things gives me a chance to build critical thinking skills. Difficult almost always requires a kind of focus, attention, and energy. It costs focus, attention, and energy. But difficult texts almost always build critical thinking skill. So that's one reason. Second reason that I want to look at Plato as a contender on our textual survivor island today is that it's full of this thing that I know people call Socratic dialogue. I've heard the word before. I'm familiar with the term, but I don't really know that much about what it is. Maybe that's a technique that will be useful to me. What's Socratic dialogue? Why is this a conversation? I noticed it right away. Glaucon and Socrates. So I'm going and looking at this text in search of a technique. And the last reason I'm going to look at this, what's the technique Socratic dialogue? And the last reason is because you guys told me that critical thinking skills are really a top priority. That in this class, you guys want writing, you want better time management, you're here also to develop your critical thinking skills. And so I know if it's difficult, if there's a critical thinking technique, then guess what? It's not just about me and what I like or what I have time for. I belong to this class. And we're a class now. We're a team. We're a world lit survivor team. And it's great if I can give my reading attention and my energy to something that's also serving you guys as well. If critical thinking is a priority for you, okay, let's of all the things I could be doing this morning, I'm going to choose to do this thinking task because we're brothers and sisters in the struggle, and so critical thinking is a priority for you. So of all the things we could do, of all the texts we could take on, let's do one that's going to help us with this acquisition of critical thinking skills. Okay, Plato, here you go. And it's also a great opportunity this morning to review how these questions work. Great to give an example so you can see them in action. When we do this, how do these 7 critical questions I care about so much, how do they actually play out when we look at a reading, when we look at a text that we've selected? There's 7 of them. You get to memorize, okay, what's the text, who and when made it, who uses it, what's it about, what's the next one? Oh, how does it work? What's it do? Is it good? So great. If you have the 7 yet, can you do them in your head? Do you have them in order? Which ones are obvious and which ones do you keep forgetting? By repeating them again and again, they become part of us. So those 7 questions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, really become this intellectual backbone, this intellectual grid that we can use at will whenever we want. So some of the questions, which of the questions are we going to take on? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've only got these little mini lectures that are supposed to be 10 and go on to 20. We only have so much time. So what are we looking at? We're looking at a Greek text. I know that, not interesting to me. Who made it? Okay, I can go back. I can get the dates for Socrates and tell you when, and that Plato was actually Socrates' student. Who uses it? Well, it's a survivor. Tons of people have used it. It's on so many lists. But I don't have time for that today. 4, what's it about? Okay. That let's look at. Number 5, how's it work? Okay, that I can look at. 2 of the 7 questions. That's all I have time and energy for this morning. And because it's a little complex, I'm going to spend my time. I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to take some reading time. And I'm going to sit down as I know how to sit down. And I'm going to figure out what the heck is this actually about? What's it saying? Plato's allegory of the cave. And that's what I did this morning. And so I'm going to do it with you over again. So you can use this video as a way of being together, of reading along with me or reading with me on your shoulder. It's called the allegory of the cave. And allegory is a fancy word. We kind of know what it means. We kind of don't. It simply means a story that's used to explain something else. An allegory is a story. Yeah, it sort of means a symbol or an image or a figure. People use it very, very casually. But Plato's story of the cave, which, because it's an allegory, we know is really a story about something else. Allegories end up being about big concepts or big ideas or important ideas that are so important that we have to come up with images and figures and stories to explain them. All right, so I just did that, and I showed you the text, and just so you know, this is what mine looks like. I used a blue pen as I was reading to annotate my text. You can't even don't have to read them, but these are thoughts that are going through my head. I always have a blue pen. Lots of people use pencils. Just the act of holding the pen and inviting me to underline or circle cool words. I should circle them more. The word shackle, the word since childhood. What else did I phrase? Shadows, chain. Words that strike out to me that are lovely. Shackle is such a great verb to bind up. But also that I think they might be important. I'm going to circle. I'm not reading everything. I'm just circling key terms that pop out to me, that strike me. We have part 1. It's short. I know I can read it in one sitting. There's lots of Socrates is talking to this guy Glaucon. How the heck do you say that name? I wonder. I better learn so that I don't embarrass myself someplace. But I have, I get it. They're in a dialogue. There's a conversation going on. This is about a conversation between Socrates, who I know is supposed to be a great thinker and philosopher, and Glaucon, one of his students, I guess. And he explains bit by bit that being in school is like being in a cave. Well, I'm a teacher. I'm an educator. This affects me. This is about me and schooling. And maybe it's about K through 12 schooling, or maybe it's about college. But I'm a teacher. This really matters to me and your students. And so this is about our relationship a bit. I'm a teacher. I'm your coach. I'm supposed to be bringing you into the light of knowledge and power and understanding of world literature, your students. And here's a description of my relationship with you. This is highly relevant this morning. I love being a teacher. I want to be a good teacher. I want to serve my students. I want you guys to like me. But more importantly, I want you guys to I want you guys to be helped by this, served. I want you to be stretched and challenged by this encounter that we're in, by this classroom. I want to do my job well, and I want to do well by you. And okay, maybe this text says something about that relationship. Okay, that certainly gets me interested. That says, wow, I'm going to give this my full attention because this is about me doing my job well. And much to my surprise, it's complicated. It takes some time to read line by line by line. But he's being, Socrates is being pretty intense, that's for sure. And he says something like the picture that you guys see in your something like the picture that you see right there on your Blackboard webpage. School is like being in a cave. Your schooling, most education is like being in a cave when you're looking at shadows that are being projected in front of you, that you're bound up in prison-like shackles, and that the real world is out there that you're not even aware of. That's the allegory of the cave. Most school, most college, most knowledge, most common knowledge is the knowledge of prisoners looking at shadows. That's not very appealing to me in any sense of the way. And then Plato goes on to say that the teacher, the guide, the true philosopher, Captain Kirk, is supposed to come down, take you and unleash you from the shackles of your current perceptions, lead you out of the cave on this beautiful sunny day out into the light to see the real world. That seems lovely to me. Let's go for a walk. I've got a new hip since last Monday. It's beautiful out. Come on, guys. Come with me. Let's go walk into the light of knowledge, of the real world. It sounds all good so far. And then Plato goes on to say, but when I do, were I to do that, your jail keeper, Captain Kirk, were I to do that, you guys would be glinting in the sunlight. It would hurt. It would be unfamiliar. It would be painful, that my job will cause you pain. And that when you have to go back to the cave, it'll be uncomfortable to go back. It's been uncomfortable to come out. And when you go back to the cave, what happens when you go home? What happens after class? What happens if you go back? You're going to be made fun of. They're going to tease you. They're going to ridicule you. And then you're going to want to kill me for having fucked up your otherwise pretty comfortable, familiar, and content life. I should be afraid of you, Plato says, if I take you out into this beautiful sunny day of sunshine and knowledge and understanding, and you go back to the worlds that you're most comfortable with, you're going to be really pissed off. And I should worry. Or you're going to be so pissed off that you're going to want to kill me. That's intense. We know it's a story. We know it's just a figure, but it's kind of intense. Plato is telling us, Socrates is telling us that this work of knowledge, this work of understanding, this work of really perceiving all that's there in the real world is really it's a question. These are questions of life and death. They're that important to people. Or what he's saying is that there's feeling and anger and danger out in this work of understanding. Well, okay, so, but now I could go line by line. If I were with you, we would now have a chance to actually talk a little bit back and forth, to spend more time so that my understanding and your understanding are really shared. I don't trust that they are yet. But at least you got to see what I understand. There's a cave. It's about knowledge. There's this sense of danger and high stakes. And so then the next question about whether this Plato should stay on our island or not is, what are the takeaways? What takeaways can I see? Well, this morning already, in the 14 minutes that we've been able to talk so far, there's a couple takeaways. There's a couple big ones I'm willing to take away right now. If I can find it. One of the takeaways is that the world that I'm used to may not be all that is there. One of the takeaways of Plato is that the world as we see it, our particular perceptions, are distorted or are partial, or there's more to it than we are used to recognizing, seeing, and experiencing. One of Plato's big takeaways is that our knowledge is partial and that there's more out there. And in its partialness, the world can be distorted, twisted. The world can be wrong. And that it takes work to see it more completely, and that work costs effort, and that it's a challenge that most people don't take on. Most people are not taking World Lit 241 right now. Most people are not in college. Most people have not made it here. For you to be here doing this work this afternoon or this evening or whenever you're doing it, for you to be going for that degree, taking a World Lit class, going for knowledge that is fuller, that is more complete, that is more useful, more powerful, your choice to, your ability to be here and your choice to invest in this work is because what you know so far may not only be partial, it also may be twisted and wrong. This every common day sense may be distorted, partial, twisted, and wrong. That's pretty cool. That's why I'm here too. I really do believe that the world's a little more complex than I knew. And okay, that's one takeaway. Another takeaway from Plato's cave is that when you mess with someone's worldview, they might and will get mad. When you mess with someone's worldview, anger can happen, and conflict can happen, and fury can happen, and people can die. So worldviews that people hold have power in their world. So I need to know that. If I'm going to mess with a worldview, I need to be ready and prepare for anger to come back. It's an astonishing thought if you think about the Trumpism that has arrived. You know, people don't want the information to dislodge, fake news, all this. We're having this crisis of worldviews. And when you challenge it, there's an awful lot of feeling and anger that may come up. That's a good thing to know about. And then what's another third takeaway I might say? The last takeaway I'm going to take away from Plato is that this attitude of skepticism, all of these skepticism, this questioning Socratic dialogue, this maybe things aren't as they first appear, is a really different attitude towards things. Skepticism, healthy skepticism, means I'm going to question and test things before I accept them. That there's value or importance in testing and questioning things before I accept them. And this idea of skepticism is so closely tied to this attitude of being curious about things. Skepticism's a little tougher and meaner. Being curious, I think of 5-year-olds. Why do butterflies fly? But they're really very close, isn't it? To be skeptical and questioning is kind of the adult version of a wonder and a curiosity of a child. But for Plato, this skeptical attitude, questioning attitude, curious that there may be something there I haven't seen, perceived, or understood yet, is a useful energy for thinking about things. So maybe you guys have, curiosity showed up a lot, and Plato is saying it's important too. Plato's saying that part of developing critical thinking skill is starting with this attitude, starting with this mood of wonder. Would we call it a curious, wondering attitude or a skeptical attitude? Both of the words work. They're just kind of different different flavors of the same attitude. Maybe there's something going on here. I should be patient, cautious. I should be careful before I just accept that this is something I should accept. 3 takeaways from Plato from this short conversation. Our world, our understandings may be partial. When you mess with someone's worldview, they get angry. This skeptical attitude is part of this technique of Socratic dialogue. Well, did we talk enough about Socratic dialogue? No way. If I went back to Plato or read more of the Republic, would I think I find value? So that's another reason. There's lots more on Plato's cave, I can imagine. Lots more in Plato's Republic, where this little allegory lives, that I'm pretty convinced would serve me. And so here we have taken a few moments more closely. We've pulled Plato out for good reason. We've sat here and played on this textual island, this world literature survivor island for a little bit. I want it to stay there. I want to keep this text as a world literature text in our survivor show. And even though I didn't answer all the questions well, even though I didn't learn as much about the technique of Socratic dialogue as I might, I'm still able to go in, ask some questions, and have some takeaways. You know, you guys out in the world, what'd you learn today from Plato? I learned that things may not be on the same as they appear on the surface. I mean, I kind of knew that, but Plato's saying that it's a bigger deal than I usually think. Hey, what'd you do in school? What'd you take away from Plato today? I took away that it is, you mess with people's comfort, mess with people's worldview, and they might get angry. And so, 2 good reasons, 2 good things that have come away, 2 good pieces of knowledge that I can own today, that you can own, and please go out and share them with somebody else. See you next time.